Hello guys, so we are now in Singapore and here with us Arthur Harris, who is founder of BitMEX, one of the leading crypto and derivatives exchange, and as well he currently manages his family office, Maelstrom. So great to have you here, Arthur.
Thanks for having me.
So can you tell us about your background and how did you discover Bitcoin first?
So I studied finance in university and I wanted to move to China when I graduated. And I found myself in Hong Kong starting in 2008, working for Deutsche Bank. And then subsequently to that, Citigroup as an ETF trader for 5 years. And I thankfully got fired from my job in 2013. And I had heard about Bitcoin on the Zero Hedge blog. And then I decided that I wanted to do something different. I started researching about it. I read the white paper. It really resonated with me because I have a penchant for gold as well. I'm a big gold bug. And so the philosophy made a lot of sense. I just started trading it and I sent my first $1,000 to MTGOX back in 2013 and bought my first Bitcoin. And then I just started trading it and then eventually created my own exchange.
Did you lose money on empty goats?
No, I got out very lucky. So when they started restricting withdrawals for dollars, I bought Bitcoin on MTGOX and then I sold it in China at a more expensive price in renminbi. And then I took the bus across the border and then collected my money in cash from the bank. And then, went back to Hong Kong and changed it back into Hong Kong dollars.
Wow, you're really lucky.
Yeah.
So did you see Bitcoin at the time more like just another financial instrument, or was it hedge against inflation for you, or what value did you see in Bitcoin at that
I
time?
saw it as a new financial ecosystem. And so I've studied a lot of financial history, and there's very few times that you're able to get in on the ground floor of a new system like this. And so I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I get why it exists after like 2008 and the global financial crisis and all the money printing and inflation. Now we have this, digital goal, if you will. And I can be, a pioneer in this industry by being early. And so I really liked it, and that's why I got involved.
And how did this idea of starting your own exchange come to you?
So my background is derivatives trading. And when I started trading in crypto, there's an exchange called ICBit. There were two guys in the Caribbean. I don't actually know who they were. And they offered the first futures contract on Bitcoin. And so I started selling these futures contracts and buying spot Bitcoin. And you could make about, I think, 200% per annum back then. And so that's how I got hooked. And I wanted to do my own exchange because I thought that they weren't innovating enough on their platform. So I thought I could build a better platform than them. And then I found my other two co-founders, Sam Reed and Ben Delo, and we created BitMEX starting in early 2014.
So how did it go at the time, and how did the industry change for you within so many 10 years already?
Yeah, so when I started, MTGOX basically went bust in early 2014, and then it was the worst time to start an exchange. Nobody wanted to fund an exchange. Everybody thought that the exchange owners were scamming people. So we were very focused on security of customers' Bitcoin, and that was sort of the big ethos at the time. Obviously, the derivatives market took off. After about a few years of us being in operation, we created the perpetual swap in 2016, which has become the largest, most traded product in crypto out of anything, like trillions of dollars a year. Every major exchange has it. And now I've gotten into sort of like the altcoin game and doing that sort of thing and tokens. And so I guess I've had many life cycles within the crypto ecosystem, especially when you think about how it's traded.
And as well, do you currently actively trade crypto, or you mostly do value investing for the long term, different DeFi stuff?
I don't know if I call it value investing. I invest in tokens. We, try to buy at a cheap price and sell it at an expensive price. I wouldn't say whether we're active traders. Our positions are on our books probably for 1 to 2 years. But yeah, value is an interesting way to put it.
And as well, can you tell more about Maelstrom? You invest mostly like in infrastructure, DeFi stuff. So why do you focus on those areas?
So we like infrastructure stuff because we believe it's going to last multiple cycles and it's going to be used by all sorts of different types of applications. And we don't really like consumer focused things because it's very difficult to understand what's the best way to onboard a consumer. It can become very expensive. It's hard for us, at least given our backgrounds, to understand like what's going to be a successful consumer crypto app. So we kind of shy away from that. We love decentralized finance or DeFi. We're all, financial professionals. A lot of us have worked at either hedge funds or venture capital firms before, or even banks. And so we get that, like what are the types of DeFi primitives that'll be successful? We understand derivatives, and so that's kind of our, where we play.
So do you believe more in the B2B adoption of crypto or like institutional adoption of crypto, and that it will be leading rather than retail trading?
I think retail is all that matters. I don't care about institutional adoption. This is about giving billions of people the ability to trade, to invest, to save in a different way. I don't really care what JP Morgan and BlackRock do. They'll come into the space and they'll have a particular type of product that they use and serve a particular type of client base. That's not what we're focused on. We want to see what are the real retail applications. How do we give more people access to finance?
Because you mentioned that you're not really focused on consumer applications rather than.
But I guess in DeFi, you have millions of customers, like Uniswap, right? One of the most used DeFi apps makes, I don't know, like $2 billion in fees every year. We want to find things like Uniswap and invest in those.
So what are your criteria when evaluating projects, whether to invest into this or that project?
First thing is price. So we have an internal maximum fully diluted valuation, FDV, that we'll pay for any project. It's very, very low. So we get in very, very early, but we're taking a lot of risks. Founders could not execute and the token could never happen. So that's the first thing, is being very disciplined on the price that we pay for something. And then we want to know, what's the narrative? What's the easily digestible thing that we can talk about this project that somebody on the street can understand what we're doing, and so that they can invest in it, and obviously the thing can go up in price. So I think those are probably the two main things that we're looking for. And then Akshat, he runs the actual investment team. They're looking at the quality of the team, what have they done before, what have other investors said about the technology, because we're not actually engineers, so we really can't dig that deep. So we kind of use other funds and their expertise as sort of a litmus test of whether or not these teams can execute on the technical vision.
And talking about DeFi, how do you see the developments, and do you think that DeFi can become much bigger than CeFi?
I think that DeFi will eventually become much bigger than CeFi, just because it's easier to onboard more people. Once people understand, oh, well, I guess open up my browser, connect my wallet, and now I have all these types of financial products. That for some people is like revolutionary, because they don't have a bank account, or they have very, very limited banking services, or the banks that they have are very, very corrupt. And so I think that DeFi will get the long tail of users. Maybe it's not going to be the most used thing in like America or Western Europe, when you have a banking system that for the most part works, but for large parts of the world they don't have that. And so DeFi is an improvement over the thing that they have.
And you travel quite a lot, so where do you see the biggest adoption of crypto, and like from what type of aspects?
So South Korea is the biggest trading market for crypto. South Korean traders on a per trader basis are the most active. So that's probably one end of the spectrum. And then you see a lot of activity in places like Turkey, in the Philippines. I haven't been in the Philippines recently, but I know that they use a lot of crypto. A lot of NFTs are bought and sold in like Thailand and Indonesia. And there's lots of developers in Vietnam. So there's lots of interesting things going on, especially in the Asia Pacific region, where I spend most of my time.
And you told that you recently been to Argentina, so how do you see the adoption of crypto there and generally in Latin America?
So I love Argentina. I go skiing there every year. And what's really interesting about Argentina is the first time I went there in 2018, the peso to the dollar was about, I think, 50 or 30 pesos to the dollar. Now it's 1,300 pesos to the dollar. But the ATMs still only give you 40,000 pesos maximum, which now is 40 US dollars. And they charge like a $7 fee. So you can't actually use cash in Argentina to do anything, because the banks make it very difficult to use it. So what do people do? They use USDT and Tether. So it's very interesting. I paid for my house, my guide, everything in Tether, just sending people money on either the Tron or ERC20 networks. So I think crypto solves a problem that they have. They have a messed up currency, lots of inflation, and so the population has gravitated to using a crypto solution.
So do you generally use quite a lot of crypto payments, and do you pay more in crypto? And do you generally use fiat now or in the crypto?
I mean, obviously over here in Asia Pacific, I use mostly fiat. And obviously I want to spend fiat and save crypto as much as I can. But where it makes sense, like places like Argentina, where using a credit card or a bank wire isn't going to work, I use crypto.
And how do you generally see the development of crypto payments, maybe within the next 5, 10 years?
I think it needs to get easier. It's still too hard for most people. They don't like remembering long passwords and stuff like that. I think it really will depend on how we bring culture on chain. So how do we make it so that somebody wants to learn about crypto? Maybe it's meme coins, maybe it's an NFT, maybe it's their favorite, creator has launched their own coin. So they're a fan, they're gonna, figure out how to use a wallet and get it that way.
And you personally invest as well into a lot of meme coins. So why do you like meme coins? Is it just from the profit perspective, or?
I think it's fun. I wouldn't say it's investing, I'd say more gambling. Can I predict what is the next trend or follow the trend and get off the train before it crashes? I think it's like gambling. It's a lot of fun. It's very social. You get to interact with the community. There's also lots of culture around it, and it's very crypto-centric. So that's why I, gamble in meme coins. Have I made some money? A little bit, but it's more for fun.
What percentage of your portfolio is in meme coins?
0 right now.
Why did you sell all your meme coins?
Because I think the liquidity situation wasn't great. I didn't know of what's the hot new meme, and I don't spend that much time trading. It's more like, oh, I hear something on on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. That sounds interesting. It's funny, so I'll buy some of that, and then I'll sell it hopefully at a profit. Most of the time at a loss. But yeah, I'm out of the meme coin game right now.
Do you think that meme coins still have a chance in the future?
Absolutely. I think for lots of people, it's fun. It's a fun activity as more and more sort of like, right now we have like what C-list, B-list celebrities who are issuing these coins. As people realize, the creators realize that they can make a lot of money doing this, you're going to see a higher quality of celebrity doing meme coins or these token drops or what have you. And you're going to get more and more people interested in them. So I think we just started. Yes, it was like, a peak and then a trough, but everything's a cycle. It'll come back.
Did you buy any celebrity coins yourself?
No, I bought dog coins. Like I like the dog money. I lost some money on pups. I wouldn't say Pepe is a meme coin, more NFTs, but I'm a big rare Pepe holder.
So, like in future, maybe you have advice for the audience how to evaluate meme coin, whether to get in or not, and what's the strategy of trading meme coins?
I say first thing to understand is like you're probably going to lose all your money. So go into it with that. You're doing it for enjoyment. And the second thing is, well, does this meme or message have like a cross-cultural appeal? I think super specific things that only appeal to a very narrow set of the population probably aren't going to do so well. It needs to be sort of something that a grandma or a teenager is going to find either funny or engaging.
And as well, let's talk more about the market. And Fed just recently cut its rates, and I saw your recent interviews that you were actually not very optimistic about the cutting rates and its influence on Bitcoin. You wrote something that it will pump for 2 days and then it will drop. So why do you think so?
So I think at the end of the day, the U.S. economy is very strong. The government's spending a lot of money, and the Fed wants to cut rates while the government is spending all this money. It doesn't make any sense. And so I think it's very inflationary. I think the market's going to realize that. And then when that happens, bond yields, especially 10-year Treasury bond yields will rise, and that'll cause a short-term market correction. Also, I believe that, reducing the differential between dollar rate and the yen rate will cause the yen to strengthen. We saw the yen carry trade unwind a few months ago in late July, early August, and with that impact on financial markets, as the Fed cuts rates, yen strengthens, that's negative for financial markets. So we'll see this weekend what happens. I think Bitcoin's, traded quite strong. It's like 63,000 or something. 64. There we go. But I think we'll see what happens over the weekend. Can Bitcoin maintain these gains, or is the market going to switch its thinking on whether or not a Fed in a cutting cycle, given the level of government spending, given the level of inflation, it's above their 2% target. We'll see. I don't know.
And you mentioned that bond yields are rising because of the inflation. So do you think people will prefer to invest into bond yields or into crypto, into Bitcoin?
Well, I think they've gone down a bit, but now if you can invest in treasury bills, it used to yield 5.5%. Now they yield 5 to 4%, right? So if that keeps going down, then everyone who's earning all this money just sitting on bonds is going to have to do something with it, and that's something I think will be partially crypto, maybe gold. maybe some, real estate. And so as these assets are not earning this income, they're going to move out into other assets of fixed supply, like crypto.
And as well, you were telling about the importance of Japanese yen and USD correlation, but today Bank of Japan left the steady the Japanese yen. So what's the outcome of this?
Well, again, I think that was expected by the market, the BOJ to hold. We'll see what the market believes about the Fed and its future path. I think I was reading yesterday that people expect a rate cut in November now, and that's so. Is that aggressive enough to force people who have borrowed yen to cover their trades and sell the assets that were financed? I don't know. We'll see. That's my bet, at least in the short term. But in the long term, I do believe in money printing. U.S. government, every other major government needs to print money to make their population feel happy, and that's going to benefit crypto.
Yeah, now we see as well the race for the US elections, and as well both candidates. Of course, Trump is now a real crypto bull. Harris as well trying to embrace somehow crypto and blockchain communities. So, like, what are your thoughts on upcoming US elections and who may win, who has bigger chances to win?
I think it's a coin toss on who wins. I have no idea. I think it doesn't really matter who wins from a financial perspective. Trump wants to cut taxes but keep spending the same. Kamala Harris wants to increase welfare payments. Both mean that the government deficit widens, the US government issues more bonds, and as such, it makes no sense to own these things. And so I think that crypto does well in a Trump presidency or a Kamala Harris presidency, and that's mainly just due to money printing. The regulations will be whatever the regulations will be. I don't think it really matters because it's a big world out there. There's other places besides the United States.
And as well, in terms of regulations, we see some movements in the US still with the adoption of Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs. So how do you see those developments, especially since you started as ETF trader in traditional banks?
I think a lot of the ETF flows were driven by hedge funds like Millennium, who are putting on a basis trade. So they buy the ETF and they sell the futures contract on the CME. We'll see if their holdings change in the next disclosures, and I think it's a 13F by the SEC, and whether or not these funds have decreased their exposure because the basis or the interest rate has gone down on these trades. And that will reveal what the true demand is for these products. I think it's TBD right now, but over time, as a marketing machine kicks in for BlackRock and these large financial institutions and getting the RIAs out there pitching this stuff, you'll see more inflows, but it's just going to take longer than people think.
And do you think there will be other ETFs for other assets, like, for example, for Solana or any other big coins?
As the banks make fees, they're going to do as much of this as they can. So I think there'll be an ETF in as many cryptos as possible.
Will there be like meme coin index ETF or something like that?
Maybe, why not?
Okay. As well, can you tell about your investment strategy currently? Like, do you trade or do you fix your profits for Bitcoin, Ethereum, or major assets?
So right now, I'm still believe that we're in a bull market. There's going to be more money printing globally, and so my core bags of Bitcoin and ETH, I'm not selling. I might trade around the position a small bit by taking a tactical short here and there, but I'm long. And then in the altcoin portfolio at Maelstrom, we're obviously long only sort of investors. We will start liquidating things when it makes sense. But right now, we believe we're still in the early stages of the bull market.
So for how long this bull market may last, in your opinion?
Maybe 2026, 2027 is my estimate, but who knows?
And where will we get liquidity coming into the markets? Because for now, this bull market is completely different. We see quite a big swings. And it feels a bit like we are back to the bear market, but before the previous 2 days.
I guess it depends on what you bought. If you bought Bitcoin in March of 2023 in the US banking crisis, you're up 3x. If you bought some new coin, altcoin or shitcoin that gets listed, maybe you're down 95%. So it really depends on what you purchase, but the aggregate value of all of crypto has still increased over the last 12 to 18 months. So I believe we're still in a bull market, but again, it depends on what you bought.
We see as well now that some stocks related to Bitcoin, like for example, MicroStrategy, performed even better than Bitcoin. Do you invest into those stocks or do you invest only directly into Bitcoin?
I only do Bitcoin and shitcoins. I don't mess with the stock market.
What do you think about these public companies putting Bitcoin or other assets on their balance sheet?
I think it makes a lot of sense. MicroStrategy is able to borrow in the corporate bond market. It's borrowing in a currency that's going to infinitely inflate, and then it's buying a hard asset like Bitcoin. So it makes sense. I would do that too if I were MicroSailor. So I understand the strategy. I think it's pretty brilliant.
So how does the strategy look in the long term when we will see another bear market? Should they sell, and do you think that MicroStrategy may dump the market eventually, or will it be as Saylor says that he will never sell Bitcoin?
I think it really depends on his interest rate payments on his debt. So I know that MicroStrategy has some revenue and some like a software. So if he ever is in doubt of like, oh shit, I need to repay these bonds, and yes, he'll dump Bitcoin, but I don't think that we're anywhere close to that.
And you talked a lot as well about hyperinflation and that we see inflation in the US and cut of the interest rates and money printing, and then just all other countries are watching the US and follow it. And we see on the other hand some countries, as for example El Salvador, adopting Bitcoin as their official currency and as well buying more Bitcoin on the government's balance sheet, I would say. What do you think about the approach?
I think it's interesting that a developing country like El Salvador has sort of broken away from the traditional advice that they're given on how to manage their country and gone with this Bitcoin approach. And so it's given an idea to other countries, hey, you don't have to follow what the IMF and the World Bank tell you. Here's an example of doing something different. Maybe it's better for your population not to follow these rules. So I think it's great.
And do you think that we will see in the future more countries adopting Bitcoin as official currency?
I think we'll see more sort of like less wealthy countries doing it because they've seen that over the last 50 or 60 years, the advice that they're given by the Americans and the Europeans is not good advice. It's not in their best interest. And so why not use a free currency owned by the world that's not controlled by Washington, D.C. or Brussels?
And since we see inflation and inflation in prices, does it really make a big sense the rise of the price of Bitcoin because it's still denominated in US dollars?
Well, it depends on what you sell it for. So if Bitcoin goes up in dollar terms, I agree with you. You've just earned more fiat if you're just going to sell Bitcoin. But let's say that Bitcoin goes up massively versus oil or uranium or natural gas, then maybe if you've accumulated enough Bitcoin, you can actually go and buy a power plant on the cheap. I don't know.
And as well, how much of a percentage do you use fiat and how much do you have in crypto?
I say probably like 90% of my net worth is in crypto, 10% fiat.
And why so? Why do you believe that much into crypto?
I mean, I still own a big stake in BitMEX and all that sort of stuff. So I have crypto bags just at a very low price. So that's why.
And as well, from the investment perspective, we see now some new trends, like for example, crypto in the AI or DeFi. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're kind of played out. The AI thing will work in some respects. We have a position in Aether, chips. I like chips. Anything to really do with power, that's a good narrative. But like consumer level AI and crypto, I think is gonna be very tough. Which businesses actually make sense and can earn the revenue?
And what about DeFi?
Deepin, there's been some interesting things. Again, it's been beaten to death for the last 12 months. Now projects have to actually prove themselves. So we'll see. I think right now, at least for us, we've slowed down how many deals that we're doing. We're waiting for the next sexy narrative, and when we see it, we'll let you know.
And as well, do you have any price predictions for Bitcoin all-time highs this cycle?
I believe we can get to $1 million end of the cycle.
80 million?
$1 million. By the end of 2024, I think we'll be at $100,000 for Bitcoin.
So you mean like 1 million by 2027?
Something around there, yeah.
So why do you believe that we can see like over 10x?
Because the amount of money that's going to be printed is going to be absolutely insane, as every government around the world does the same thing, which is print money to make my people feel happy because the global growth is slowing.
But last cycle, we didn't really see such big growth. It was like probably from the dump in 2020, the Black Swan event, from like $4,000 to just 69 or something. So why do you believe that we will see such a big returns on Bitcoin now, when especially the market cap of Bitcoin is much higher?
I think that we're in a transition period of a global financial system. We're going to change it. the elites will resist the change, which means they're going to print a lot of money, more money than ever that's ever been printed, because they don't want the post-World War II U.S. Hegemony to change. And that's why, I believe. And I think now is the time for this to happen.
And do you see really many institutionals and many retail relying on Bitcoin and crypto as a hedge against inflation, or is it mostly speculation?
Depends on where you're from. If you're in somewhere like Argentina, yes, Bitcoin, or Nigeria, like places where, or Turkey, yeah, Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, store of value. If you're in a place that has a more stable currency, then maybe it's more about speculation.
Okay. And as well, let's get back to the US elections. And now Trump as well talks a lot about different crypto regulations, positive. He's as well launching his DeFi project. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think Trump is pro-crypto. I think that he's a politician and he wants to take people's money and get reelected. He was president for 4 years. He did nothing for crypto. Why do you think it's different this time? So I don't believe he's any different than Kamala Harris in terms of crypto policies.
Maybe he's just more educated now.
Oh, maybe he's just very good at telling people what they want to hear, so they give him campaign donations.
Well, that's for sure. But for example, we can see the same with Michael Saylor, who was tweeting before that it's like just a gambling, but now he's a real Bitcoin fool.
Maybe, we'll see. Again, I can only go off of what he actually did while he was in office, which was nothing. And so that has informed my opinion on what he'll do in office the next time around.
And do you have like any thoughts on the predictions of the outcome of the US elections, like in terms of percentage? Like what are the chances for the Trump and what are the chances for Harris?
I mean, the betting market says, what was it, like 55% Trump, 45% Harris? I mean, I think it's basically a coin toss.
And what do you think as well on some prediction markets apps like Polymarket?
I think they're great. I'm an investor and an advisor of Drift. They have a prediction market as well. So it's a great thing to have more markets, more information, let humans express themselves in a two-sided marketplace. I love it.
And as well, in your opinion, what do we need for the mass adoption of crypto?
Culture. So we need things like ordinals, we need things like NFTs, we need celebrities launching meme coins. That's how the average person gets into crypto.
And you're quite big on ordinals, inscriptions, Bitcoin ecosystem. So why are you bullish on it? Why do you see the value in ordinals?
Because it's actually on chain. It's a scarce digital artifact, as opposed to most NFTs, say Ethereum for that matter, because they're just pointing to a database that's centralized. So that's why I like ordinals. It speaks to the Bitcoin ethos, and it's the biggest ecosystem on which to launch something.
So do you think as well different Bitcoin ledgers have a chance to take off?
For sure. Bitcoin and DeFi, we're invested in Mezzo, which is another protocol trying to launch their own L2 to do DeFi and Bitcoin. So I'm bullish on it.
And do you think Bitcoin L2s may overcome Ethereum or other chains?
We'll see. We'll have to see what the actual implementations are, what's the appetite, what types of products that they're listing, but it definitely has the opportunity. Bitcoin's a much larger asset.
And can you share as well some other altcoins in your portfolio besides Ethereum?
Athena, Pendle, what else? EtherFi, Aptos. So
Okay, all DeFi and staking stuff.
yeah.
What about Solana, Avalanche, BNB, like different other
No.
coins? So why bullish on Aptos?
I think that they have a great team, ex-Facebook. The Move protocol is very interesting in how they're sort of prioritizing how things are processed on chain. And I think that they've got a lot of good partnerships with TradFi institutions that want to use a Web3 public blockchain to do things on chain.
What about Suya?
Well, I think that Aptos actually has more traction in terms of partnerships than Sui does.
And as well, you have a lot of Ethereum, so but now Ethereum Foundation as well sells a lot of Ethereum. What are your thoughts on that?
They have costs. They got to sell Ethereum. It doesn't really factor into my mental model.
Do you think that other chains may overcome Ethereum? Like a lot of people are bullish that Solana will be leading and will overcome.
I think it's going to be very, very difficult. You need to have the most developers. And right now, Ethereum still has the most developers. They have the most used applications. And now with some of the new L2s, the cost to transact on the network has come down a lot as well.
And as well, like maybe in 10 years time frame, do you think other chain
I don't know.
may overcome
That's why you have multiple bets. I have no idea. I think, again, it's probabilistically, it's very hard to defeat Ethereum. Is it impossible? No.
And talking about DeFi platforms, do you use a lot currently?
I definitely use more, what do I use? More for payments, sending stuff, earning yield on Athena, the USDE. That's probably the most used DeFi thing that I have.
So why do you think it's more beneficial to just like hold your assets and earn the yield rather than invest into some other altcoins?
Yeah, well, for a certain part of my portfolio where I want to earn high dollar yields, some of these protocols made sense. If I want to trade something, then I can go on, a Uniswap or DYDX or Drift or one of these things.
And how do you see the industry in the next 5 years?
Bigger.
That's obvious.
Yeah. I don't think it's that obvious to some. Looking at this conference in Singapore, 20,000 tickets this year, 10,000 last year, we're seeing more interest around the world for crypto. And so I think it's bigger. What does that mean in terms of which tokens are popular? I don't know, but at least we have more eyeballs on the ecosystem.
And don't you feel like there is some kind of fragmentation currently in the industry?
In terms of?
We see the influx of much more fresh people into the industry, and as well we see like different communities, like just I don't know, probably hundreds of these layer ones, layer twos, and many of them are still funded by a lot of Tier 1 investors. As well, we see like fragmentation in terms of ecosystems and as well in terms of different directions like AI, gaming, NFTs, Bitcoin ecosystems, and etc.
Well, it's great. I think that's what we need. It's a free market. Anyone should be able to launch anything. And so if you're giving humans the ability to spin up some code and launch a new product, you're going to have lots of them. So I think it's great.